Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to another edition of Court Call with Ronnie Nunn. And if you haven't seen him from last year, you gotta check him out. Ronnie was an NBA ref for 20 years, and he also was the head of officials for 5, was part of the NBA team for 27 years here, has more experience than anybody I know about officials. So Ronnie, first off, tell me, how's everything going with you?
Everything is great. I have a wonderful position here as Vice President for Sports Officiating for the ECAC, which involves 12 to 14 sports. And I'm even learning about some officiating things when you talk about fencing and wrestling and gymnastics. But the core pieces of football, basketball, baseball, soccer, they're a lot of fun. And of course, my expertise is supposed to be, of course, in basketball. So I keep up. I keep up with it. It's a nice college transition.
Well, fantastic. And I got to tell you, I have to do full disclosure. I went to Wisconsin. I was a basketball manager at Wisconsin. So I am not going to be the most impartial person when we're looking at the footage between Wisconsin and Duke. But I got to tell you, I usually can do it. I can separate myself sometimes. And I was watching that championship game, and man, was it frustrating. There's a lot of calls. Duke, we pulled one for Duke that we went against them as well, just to make sure that I at least found something that they could agree with us on there. So I wanted to bring you in because I thought there's no one else who can better help me get over the loss that we went through on Monday in the championship game. So what do you say? Let's jump right into it.
Yeah, let's do it. Start me off, and what do we have?
Well, the first clip is in the beginning of the second half. One of the Duke players, Winslow, is backing down a smaller player, and he turns into the lane to shoot. And you can kind of see when you watch it, he takes out the Wisconsin player, and there's a lot of contact, and it's an and one. So what are your thoughts on the initiation of the contact?
I think this is a clean play and an excellent call. I'll be honest. If you look at the right arm of the defender, the Wisconsin defender, he almost has a horizontal arm on top of the shoulder of the Duke player as he begins to alight into the air. And that arm, when we're talking about the vertical arms, you really have to get them naturally much more vertical than that. And that contact right there is really important. If you stop your film and you see that arm, you'll know that when he comes up through it. And I like the call.
Okay. Now, in the replay that we see, we have a nice courtside angle. Before his arm goes down, there definitely seems to be a leaning in with the head, and there's almost a head-to-head collision there. Thoughts on that part of it?
That's just kind of incidental. You don't see anything purposeful to dislodge the defender, even into his chest with the head. As you look at the play unveil itself, you'll see that the contact is there, but it doesn't go through enough to call offensive. I can certainly appreciate the comment as we slow it down, but when you're looking at it in real time for an official, it kind of washes itself with that whole play. He snuggled in, and I could not call an offensive foul on that. I would call a defensive foul, as was called.
Good stuff. Well, let's move on to a little bit later in the second half where Frank Kaminsky is attacking Okafor down low, and Okafor gets a strip. There's a couple things here that I kind of wanted to point out. One, that it looked clean and they made a call, but the real thing that kind of disturbed me about this was which ref made the call. So tell me what your thoughts are on what happened and whether or not that's that ref's call.
Well, on plays to the basket, even a post play where you got a nice pivot and turn, both officials, the lead and the center official, as they call it in the college ranks, and the slot official in the NBA ranks, both are looking at that play. In this case, most of the times the center official on the sideline is looking for a curl the other way. But this time it curls, the player curls to the baseline, so the lead official can get a real good look. And you know what? He does, I think, and I think he does see all ball. We cannot see from the eyes of the center official. From all these points, we can see that it looks like a pretty clean strip, and I think he must see something otherwise. Or maybe he's officiating it a little too close, as we just talked about with the other play. And I think if he would see it again, he may lay off that play and realize the contact is marginal, the strip is cleaner than it might have appeared, and it should have been just a good strip. So -1 for the Wisconsin team on that one. And again, now we don't have his view. We have everybody else's view. We don't have his. So there could have been something there that alerted him. But I would have liked to have seen, from what we've all seen here on TV, I would have liked to have passed on that play as a good strip.
Well, let's move on to the mid part of the second half with Wisconsin up by 4, and Duke is driving toward the basket. And we had an and one again here with some contact, and the question now becomes who's initiating the contact and how much is a defense at fault. What are your thoughts on this third clip?
Well, I like this one too. I like it very much, and we've got to get our viewers to really see the defender. And when you get that over the top, above rim angle, you can see the defender comes to the shooter, and the shooter actually is coming into a straight line and then going up from almost perpendicular to the end line. But the key person is you're not really watching the offensive player. You must keep your eyes on the defender, and if you do, as we see that over the top, he keeps coming at him. And as he comes at him as if he's going directly to the baseline, he contacts him. Now, the opposite angle from the floor doesn't show much because it doesn't get him at the very, very start of this play. It gets him sort of at the end. And he looks legal on that last clip. But honestly, when you see the over-the-rim clip, we have an excellent call. All referees must keep their eyes on defenders, particularly on one-on-one play like this.
So you're not seeing any kind of a notion of the Duke player jumping back into the player as he's going up. You feel like it was pretty good straight up and down.
Yeah, this is a good basketball play. It's not the kind of play where really I think I see a player kind of luring the player. I think he just elects to go up very smartly, and he goes straight a little bit in, but the bottom line is he has that opportunity to go in if he wants to go toward a basket, and the defender must stop, and he doesn't. Mm-hmm. He keeps coming, and that's where you take advantage. Take that play if it were a layup. If he were going into the basket and the same defender went toward him, we know that two vectors going to the same point is a defensive foul because of the defender not holding his position of verticality or something of that nature. So he does come toward him. The offensive player can always go to the hoop, and in that case, again, a defensive foul and a good call in my view.
Good stuff. Let's move on to our fourth clip, which is a little bit later, not much after this play, where we have a Duke player, lead in and crash into the lane, and the Frank Kaminsky of the Wisconsin goes flying backwards. It was a block. What were your thoughts?
Well, this one, I'm not too happy about this one. I see this as a pretty clear offensive foul. It's a kind of a cosmetic play that looks like it just kind of can confuse anybody. It's the wrong foot. It's the wrong timing for most block charges, and it doesn't look as cosmetically clear for anyone. And in this case, it might have caught the official in the lead position in the same manner. But if you take this play and just look at it simply and not try to put too much into it, we sometimes do that as officials. I've done it myself, trying to analyze something too clearly. Maybe he thought he got into his footsteps, but he didn't. He was in place, and actually the other player couldn't stop his movement forward, couldn't slide to the right or to the left, and as a result, just powers and crashes through him. And really the best call here is an offensive foul, and I have no problem seeing it as an offensive foul, and I'm sure the official, upon seeing it later on, can see that there was nowhere to go but through, and that's what he did, so it should be an offensive foul again.
Yeah, forgive me. It wasn't Kaminsky. It was Dukin, the other big guy for Wisconsin. So, it was really strange because he's doing the move that we teach a lot where you dribble and you rip through high. And the problem, though, with that move is if it's too close, then there come the elbows, too. So, to me, it also wasn't just, the body-to-body contact like that where he was set. It felt like it was elbows into the head area.
Yeah, and that was... I just think he took a look at the play too late. He didn't see it early enough because I don't think he expected that collision at that moment. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, it was all there. And, as an official, when you see a wreck like this, you've got to do something with it. I want to also say that sometimes officials tend to give the offense a break on things like that when they come too quickly. But the sophistication continually moves upward, and you've got to recognize that there's nowhere to go, nowhere to slide around the defender. He just goes through him. Don't make it harder, make it simple, and call the offensive foul.
Great stuff. Well, let's move on to toward the end of the game with 3.5 minutes to go. And what we have here is a really kind of a crucial call because Duke was clinging to a 1-point lead when the Duke player went down to the baseline, stepped out of bounds. How do you explain a miss? Because the other problem is this became an and one for them. He missed the free throw, but he certainly got a bucket out of it. So, what are your thoughts on this?
You know, this is just a human nature error of eyes, and you know, he's really refereeing the lead official from the waist up because they're giving him something to really have to deal with, and that's the positioning of the defender in driving against this offensive player. And he's wondering if he's, you know, is he rerouting him off out of bounds? Is he holding him on this drive? Is there a possible hook on this play? So he's seeing things waist up, and all of a sudden, yes, you can see that the foot touches the line, and it was just unfortunate. I don't know. You know, the baseline can always be thicker if you wish it to be. The other lines cannot be, but the baselines on each end can always be painted thicker. It might help to see something like that. But you know, yes, it's incorrect. Yes, we should have had a call. But by the same token, sometimes a play like that can be missed depending on the physicality of the play, because we're looking at waist and up where it really makes a lot more sense. But unfortunately, yes, we get it wrong, and I can understand it.
And I really like how you explained it because, you know, you're right. There's a lot of things happening on this play that he has to be aware of, and he's probably a little bit more concerned right now with what's going on with the hands and the body collision there because, you know, you could have gotten away with calling a foul on Wisconsin probably, right?
Yeah, he could have got away with calling a foul, and because, you know, there is some rerouting there that would have taken a player towards the out-of-bounds area. So, in all fairness, I think it was a good no call on that play, and unfortunately, but obviously on the line.
Yeah, and you know what? They call a foul there. It looks like Duke was already in the bonus, so they would have had the free throws, and it might not have changed anything on this play. So, thank you. You helped me feel a bit better about that one. Let's move on to clip 6, which was now Wisconsin's down by 5. They've completely lost the lead that they had built up earlier on. And this was probably one of the biggest decisions they had to make because it was reviewable. It went out of bounds after a little bit of a scrum down there. And I don't know. Everybody that I talked to seemed to think that this was a call that, you know, after review would have been Wisconsin's ball. So what are you seeing here, and what do you think the referee saw?
Well, you know, obviously the call should have gone against Duke because, you know, after so many reviews, as we look at that sitting in our living rooms or at places, or especially with the completeness of it, and give the truck people a big high five because they did their best to get this play as slow mode and as clear as possible. But I will tell you something. If you don't see the slightly bent upper finger of the Duke player to kind of recognize that the ball has hit it, then you can't get this play, has been touched, I mean, then you can't get this play. But the key is that when you're out there on the court and you're looking at a monitor and you're not in an enclosed place with curtains around you to really, really see it, I can see why they stayed with the call because it was really that difficult to discern as to whether the rotation of the ball, which also is a key, was very, very difficult to see it come out of its rotation, its normal rotation, as it had launched itself. So when you don't know, you stay with the play, and believe me, having to look at that in an arena with all the lights and not having any special goggles or any special contraption onto the monitor that could, you know, microscopically enlarge something, you've got to go with what you got. I kind of happy with what they had because there was a human piece to this monitor. And the monitor has to give us a little bit more to get it completely right. I mean, you got to agree that this was almost impossible to confirm.
I think so. I mean, I was really, really looking hard for the rotation of the ball, thinking that that would be the real key here, is once the rotation interrupts or stops a little bit, you know we touched it. That said, I think we all know that there is a way to touch it very lightly, which may not have interrupted it as much. You know, at the time, for me, it seemed pretty clear. I watched all these over again and again, and I started to have a little bit more doubt on some of these as well. Unfortunately, you know, it didn't go Wisconsin's way because they come down to bang a 3, and that's the game. It's pretty much over on that one. So, you know, a really great explanation into what's going on there. And you're right, there's a lot of stuff happening. It's really difficult to be able to go through that, and it wasn't as definitive as it seemed, right? I mean, I think that's the bottom line here.
Yeah, you know, I looked at it then, I looked at it now by you sharing it with me, and like I say, the captions are great to review. And if you really don't have a real poise and a real good angle and no glare at all, I mean, you almost have to go into a booth where everything is covered, where you can really see it. And they came out with what's best to do. The monitor is to help you. 99.9% of the times it does, but on some situations, as I've always said, the toughest call in basketball is OB. Out of bounds plays can be the toughest ones. People like to talk block charge. We get that right a lot more often than people think. But in this case, out of bounds again comes and bites us. And you can't get it any better than that unless someone that is officiating in the truck is that. Now we now do it in the NBA, I understand, where we have people at the offices looking at certain plays, can really slow it down and give that information. Otherwise, he's doing the very best. The three guys are doing the very best, and I'm sure that they all gave their piece to it to see if, because one thing they want to do is get it right. Mm-hmm. And the monitor here could not confirm it in that particular location and venue and situation they were in.
Well, I haven't broken the game down from the X's and O's standpoint, but I will say this. They probably didn't deserve to win, having gone through the last several possessions that they had. So I've kind of gotten over the notion of what the refs did, because you can't really win that game having the kind of possessions that they did down the stretch. And you know what? Duke got the shots that were very tough. Some of those outside shots were very tough with a hand in their face, and they knocked them down. And that's really what what hinges on these games generally. So, Ronnie, you've gone a long way to helping me get over that and feel a lot better about how the game went. I'll have to kind of take to task the swing offense that Bo Ryan runs on another breakdown. But again, great stuff. And again, we're going to try and get some of these out for the playoffs, for the NBA playoffs this year. So sports fans, stay tuned. If you see a call that you don't get or you don't like or you don't think was correct, make sure to tweet it out or email or anything and tell us about it. And we'll get through it if we can with me and the referee, Ronnie Nunn. And no one else explains it as well as you do, Ronnie.
Well, I thank you very much. It's a pleasure to see it, but you have to walk in these shoes sometimes. And as any good judge on real things in life, of course, this is real too, but it's sports. But when you throw the gavel down, you got to be right, but it's also sometimes just humanly impossible to be perfect. And some incidences here show that.
Absolutely. Well, don't forget, sports fans, at BBallBreakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You win. You win, Ronnie?
I'm in, Coach. Thank you.